Hi, how are you? You're very welcome to the first of our training videos for the As I Am and Aviva summer program. A series of activities that you might choose to use to support any young person involved in the project this summer. We are not being prescriptive in the way we've devised this program. We put the program together in a way to signpost activities and methods and things that you could do that for some students they might decide to spend an hour or two doing that activity. Another student might really love that activity and extend that out to maybe 8, 10, 12 hours. And it's very much up to you. What we're doing initially is guiding you through two different pieces of work. Firstly, we have a workbook that we've developed that will allow you to frame some of the activities. Now you can use the workbook, it'll be available on download from the As I Am website, but you can also edit and adapt and create your own materials using that as a template. But you can also use some of the video content. We are delivering this very much with the view that it's a conversation or a training to anybody who might be working in this area. Feel free to use a section of it or a piece of it with a young person where we're maybe demonstrating some cooking methods or demonstrating some craft skills. Feel free to adapt and use it in any way that's appropriate. We are really interested in seeing the work that you produce as part of the program, sharing the work on social media, making sure that you tag As I Am in all of the activities and the crafts and the skills that you develop over this program. We have aligned it in all of our work with As I Am. It's very important that we align our work with other agencies and support services such as the Department of Education. And we have tried to align this in a way that is guided by the guidance given by the department around the summer program this year. So we're looking at kind of 5 broad areas. Hope and optimism is one. Self-efficacy, which is really around building your skills and your capacity in a number of different areas. Staying calm and centered, and that's around building your reflective skills and your skills to help understand that readjusting back into school is going to be a little bit anxiety causing for some students. Even as teachers, we're all a bit nervous about returning to school as well. Also we're going to be looking at the area of feeling safe and secure, and we're going to be looking at a number of different things such as internet usage and that, and lastly connecting with others and building your relationships. For many of us, we've had a more isolated time in the last year and a half, so this is around building your skills and your capacity around connecting with other people. So maybe we'll just start off by introducing ourselves. Anne?
Hi, I'm Jones and I'm a home economics teacher in St. Coleman's Community College in Middleton, and I have obviously been working in the area of home economics for many years now at this stage. So yes, I'm looking forward to working on the project with Billy and Hannah and As I Am.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I work for As I Am as the organisation's training manager and education officer, and I am trained as a primary school teacher. So I'm really looking forward to working on the project this summer with Billy and Anne.
And my name is Billy Redmond. I'm a principal of North Wicklow Educate Together Secondary School, and I've been involved with As I Am for a number of years now, supporting Hannah in her coordination of the Autism Friendly Schools project, and also developing some materials and support materials around working with young people across a broad spectrum of needs within the autistic community. So we're going to jump in and we're going to start off with a couple of kind of beginning sections really when you're developing the program. So in the workbook we have a number of goal setting sheets, and one of the first is, depending on whether you're delivering this program to maybe a group of 6 or 7 students, whether you're doing it as a one-to-one activity, that we want you to think about having a conversation initially around what the young person needs to do more of, what maybe they might need to be careful of, and things that they might need to stop doing. And we have a simple template in there. So to be thinking about, for the young person, it's very important that they're involved in developing their challenge for the summer. We see this as a challenge project, a project around setting goals, identifying where your strengths are, building your capacity around those different areas, but it needs to be led by the young person and supported and facilitated by the teacher or the guide that's working with the young person through that couple of week program, or it could be through shorter events throughout that 2 weeks. So when you think about the kinds of things that you might need to do more of, Hannah or Anne, have you any examples of the kinds of things, maybe from a primary perspective or a secondary perspective, that we need to do, or the young person might need to do more of in engaging with the activities?
Well, I suppose one of the really nice things about that worksheet is that, you know, they're really able to kind of identify in themselves their own skills. It's a lot of self-assessment based, which is great. So you might hear younger kids maybe coming up with things like, I need to do more of listening, and maybe there might be a particular activity that they like to do more of. That could come up in that category as well, rather than needing to, but you know, perhaps they find it easier to communicate by doing a recording of something rather than writing it, or by drawing rather than writing. So you might see things like that coming up there.
Okay, and from a secondary perspective?
Yeah, and it would be similar actually from the secondary, you know, that it would be led, but also there might be that opportunity for them to challenge themselves a bit more. And I suppose with a number of the activities, there is the leeway to do that, so that they can go that little step further when they feel comfortable. But again, being student-led, you know.
And it's also, again, remember, this is a challenge activity. So if you can, as the adult who's guiding the process with the young person, find moments of opportunity, learning moments where you can nudge the young person towards, might that be difficult for you when you go back to school? How might that be easier for you to engage? So whether it's listening, concentration skills, communication skills, speaking, asking questions, giving feedback, receiving feedback, working with other people, staying calm. Think about all of the different things that you might need to maybe do a little bit more of, but also things you might need to be careful of. Some students are great at giving their opinion and great at answering out loud and not thinking about putting their hand up, and maybe working in a group that can be a little bit more challenging. And the thing around stop doing, it's really down to the individual student, and you don't need to fill out all of that worksheet, but you might actually, as you go through the program, you might put one thing in it in the first day, and as you go through you might go, oh actually maybe that's something I need to watch, and I go back to that worksheet and I fill in another section as well. So for all of these, they're developmental. They're not events. You fill them in, you close that page and you go on to the next page. It's a bit like a portfolio or a scrapbook, and feel free to even get a scrapbook or a folder, individually print the pages and make up what works for you. You can also do it digitally if you want, if your IT skills are really good, and loads of our young people have excellent IT skills. So feel free to stretch and constrict all of the activities and the materials as much as you would like to. So we're going to move on then, and just to reference a small section in the workbook around SMART goals, because some of the activities are very much going to be led by you. So what we want you to think about is to use 2 templates for every single activity that you do. One of the templates is a template around SMART goals, so that your goals should be specific, so be very detailed about what it is that you're going to do. They should be measurable, so what am I going to do, what will it look like, how will I know I have it done. They should be achievable, and we're going to use the SMART goal sheet now. One of the first activities we're going to talk about is planning a nature walk. So you might decide, well actually I'd like to go to the other side of Ireland and do a really interesting nature walk in Galway, if you're from somewhere else, let's say not Galway. But actually that might not be achievable within the time frame. But when you're exploring all of the interesting places you'd love to go for a nature walk, don't be limited first. Then you can go back to that list and say, well, I'd love to go for a nature walk in the Lake District in the UK, or I'd love to go for a nature walk around Niagara Falls, or I'd love to go for... Explore as wide as you possibly can first, because then you might lead to doing more research around those areas, to connecting to sustainable goals, to connecting to geography, and you're interested in maps and those types of things. So go wide first, and then you use your SMART goals to pull you back into a very specific action. Keep it relevant. So make sure, well, so for example, if you decided you want to go for a nature walk in your local shopping centre, that's really not a nature walk. So it needs to be relevant to the activity that we're thinking about, and time bound, so that you're planning it within a time frame. And for some young people, if they were travelling, They might decide that I want to go for a nature walk. Let's say I work in Bray and Wicklow. They might decide they want to go to Glendalough, and that means they have to plan travel, they have to think about getting there, how long they're going to be there, getting the bus back. So thinking about putting that within a time frame. And you might be planning in week 1 with the view that you're going to do your nature walk in week 2. So the SMART goals sheet again, so even wherever you're working, in a classroom or in a room at home, or put your SMART goal sheet up on the wall and always go back and check. Is the activity I'm planning now? So for example, Anna's going to be doing a bit of work around things like planning breakfast, planning lunch, planning a picnic. Your SMART goals would go back to, well, I'd love to bring ice cream on my picnic, but I'm going to make the food and I'm not going to be eating it for 3 hours, so maybe ice cream is not going to work because it's not going to be achievable. So it allows you to reflect and consider how workable a task might be. Is there anything you'd like to add to the SMART goals, Hannah, around how young people might use those or build on that?
No, I think actually it's really good because it gives them a focus. You know, I think that will really focus the activities. And as well as that, it allows the students to actually put in what they want to do. So I suppose from using it myself, like I think it's actually really good to actually take the time to actually do that for each activity. And it can be a reflective tool as well, actually, when you've actually completed, you know.
Yeah, I think the reflective piece is really important there as well, that you would go back to it after an activity and maybe more so look at, okay, why didn't that work? For that kind of reflective learning, and you know, if I was doing that activity again, what would I change and why? I think the SMART tool can be really helpful for that kind of learning.
And remember, with the worksheets, sometimes you might be, as the adult, supporting the young person, filling the sheet in for them, and they might be telling you what they want to write. They might be writing it themselves and not maybe speaking if they're not really feeling comfortable with speaking or they're non-verbal. It's very important that you create a way that these materials can be accessible for that young person. It isn't just one size fits all, because that absolutely is not the case. We want this program to be so stretchy and adaptable that it'll meet the needs of as many students. So whether you're 4, 14, 15, 16, it really is about you building a program just using some of these signposts to help you navigate what that might look like. So we're going to move on now and we're going to talk about one of our first activities. And one of our first activities is going for a nature walk.